Welcome to Exposé. I am a regular host, Tony Akinyemi, and it's my pleasure, my honor to also be your host today again. We've been talking to Dr. Silvia Binder, a doctor of naturopathy, a PhD holder in natural health, and the CEO of the Untitled companies, the companies that sell the Untitled device around the world. And she's been sharing her thoughts and expertise with us on various aspects of brain health and mental health. And we're honored to have her on this episode today again. I believe this is the fourth time that she's been with us on Exposé. She's been so kind and generous with her time with us. We appreciate you, Dr. Binder. You are most welcome today to this episode of Exposé again.
Thank you so much for having me again, live from Abuja, and you live from Lagos. It's a pleasure.
The Abuja studio and Lagos studio.
It's a pleasure being with you, and your show brings a wealth of education. I love what you say, less medication, more education.
That's right.
That's fantastic. And if I may add to the bio that I am the founder of the Binder Institute for Personalized Medicine.
That's right.
Under which I can practice and do the research and do the publications and the lecturing that I am doing globally. And also virtual consultations are now a possibility, which is a beautiful side effect of what has happened in 2020 with COVID-19.
That has restricted your travels. I know that you are well traveled and you were all over the place. The whole of 2018, 2019, it was difficult to pin you down to one place. But now in 2020...
I wanted to go to New York, and I got my ticket with Lufthansa. I was supposed to fly in the beginning of November. I booked my ticket in September or October, and it turns out Lufthansa has not flown in and out of Nigeria ever since March, but they sold me the ticket. Can you imagine? Such an illusion again. So I've been stuck here, which is a blessing, since I'm doing a lot of good work with traditional complementary alternative medicine department here in Abuja for the Ministry of Health and the other things that I do.
Thank you much. Yeah, welcome on board, and we appreciate your services to the Federal Ministry of Health in the area of natural medicine. Okay, today we'll be going on to anxiety and depression with specific focus on anxiety. You know, before now, I used to think of anxiety in very flimsy ways. I used to think of it as something that somebody just gets into within a few minutes and then gets out of it. I thought, oh, if something happened, you became anxious. You're anticipating something. Maybe you did a medical test and you're waiting for the result. You don't know whether it's going to be this way or that way, and you are anxiously waiting, you know, to hear the result. Or maybe you wrote an exam and you're waiting for the result or the outcome of that examination or that test, and whether you passed or you failed that exam, and you're anxious, you know, you're a little bit, you know, anxious and waiting for the outcome to know whether to cry or to shed tears of joy. You know, I used to think of anxiety only in that way until not too long ago, before I realized that there's actually a very serious disorder called anxiety. And reading up on that, I found about two different types of anxiety. I won't call myself an expert. I'm just an enthusiast. I'm just inquisitive. I just read and research and find out things. And I found out two broad categories of anxiety, apart from the minor one that I mentioned, which are the things that happen to us day by day in our day-to-day living. Okay, but anxiety as a disorder, I found that there's one they call GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder. And I also found there's another one they call Social Anxiety Disorder. You know, I mean, for example, when I was young, as a little child, I was very shy. I wasn't the type of person who could stand before a crowd to speak. I mean, if there were more than 5 people gathered together, my voice begins to shake, you know. I'm not able to speak confidently. That was how I was as a child, as a kid. But it was as I grew up that by the grace of God, I was able to come out of that. Now, it came to a time I could stand in front of a stadium and speak to an entire stadium filled with people. But then I found that there are people who sink into this social anxiety disorder where they are no longer able to function socially. In fact, the whole idea that they are going to stand before a crowd to talk, kind of triggers this anxiety, and they begin to get jittery and get nervous. I saw so many people lately, particularly this year, 2020, when the COVID-19 saga started. I found out that a number of people, suddenly sank into this disorder where they became jittery, they became nervous, they became afraid, and anxiety took them over. And they run all kinds of tests and they look okay, in terms of their medical tests. But emotionally, psychologically, they are destabilized, they are challenged. In fact, one man sat in front of me and he said, "Pastor, help me. I don't know what is wrong with me." And tears were rolling out his eyes. Everything in his life was good. His marriage was good. His spouse, wonderful. His children, wonderful. His career is beautiful. He has a good job. Financially, he's very stable. All the medical tests he ran, everything was okay, but he just didn't understand why he was feeling the way he was feeling. And so I heard about this generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder and what have you. So today, that's why I feel that we need to look at this subject and talk about it from your perspective as a naturopath, as a natural medicine practitioner. What are your thoughts on anxiety generally? Maybe you just need to give us some rudimentary information and education from your perspective on what anxiety is, and then we progress to how to address it in our lives if we experience such things.
Well, anxiety, not that I have read much about that, but of course, it's just recently become a diagnostic label, if you think about it. So anxiety is a stress-induced mental state. So stress is the big, let's call it the tipping point.
Right.
So stress is involved in many, many different diseases, in symptoms. And so how do we reduce stress, and why is there stress? Stress is stress, but not really. It's how we cope with stress. That's the brilliance, what sets it apart. And I believe, anxiety is whatever anxiety out of the two that you just mentioned, it is a deviation of one's own potential. And what you said that, oh, you were very shy as a 5-year-old or as a child growing up, in just thinking about, this is my take on it, and just thinking about standing in front of a crowd and lecturing, that actually, you already felt the potential of you one day doing exactly that. But in that moment, anytime you thought about it, you could not understand how to even bridge that. How are you going to become this person that you so ultimately, you're afraid more of public speaking than of death? A lot of people, when they have a hunch, an intuitive moment of who they can potentially become and be, it scares the heck out of them. And to become so stressed and nervous, and they become a nervous wreck. It's just because they're projecting themselves today into what's to come in the future. So if we can just be mindful and realize and recognize of who we are today, and that there is a journey, and we will be growing with this journey if we allow it with a lot of mindfulness and not creating this expectation from others upon us that this is what puts the world in its place, because it doesn't. It doesn't matter what people think or what they judge you for, because it's not their place to judge you. So to embrace who you are, to first of all understand that there is a seed of you, this powerful seed within you that God has given all of us. There's nobody better, nobody worse. We're all, let's say, born with the same, it's in German, Werkzeugkoffer, the same toolbox in English. I got it now. The same toolbox, but how do we use that toolbox? Do we even realize we have a toolbox? Do we open the toolbox and look inside and say, oh, all these things, a hammer and this and I can do different things? No, most of us don't. We live our lives not even recognizing we have a toolbox. Then something happens, boink! We have an illness, we can lose our job, our child is sick, and suddenly we fall into this hole of depression that actually is an awakening moment, and we realize that, boy, there's a toolbox that has been living inside of me all this time. Why haven't I realized that there was a toolbox? As you are awakening, right? You're awakening from this state of non-being who you can be, and just living in this mundane pattern that you haven't recognized who you are and what you can be. So the perspective of oneself, I think this is the root problem, that there is no perspective of oneself, or if there is one, then it's just too much about yourself. There's no balance, and the realization of the seed within you, and opening that toolbox and letting that toolbox work for you, and using all the different tools that are available. That's a growing process that often is found. That toolbox is found maybe in the second or third stage of your phase of your life. The first stage, being the teenager, teenager, the second, the childbearing phase, and the third, when your children are grown and you go into the golden age, as we say according to anthroposophical medicine. And so let's make our children aware that they don't have to become older, but to recognize the tool set now, so you don't have to be afraid of what's to come, of who you can potentially be. So the anxiety, I believe, is a stress-induced issue, one that would invite the idea of becoming more mindful and becoming more centered, and becoming that creative being that you yourself are holding back from being, and therefore creating a bottleneck. If that makes sense.
Thank you. All right. Okay, we are going to move on and look at the last episode I had with you. We signed off talking about yeast infections, Candida albicans, and the rest of them. That is yeast overgrowth. You said we always will have some amount of yeast in our systems anyway, but it is the overgrowth that becomes a challenge. Now, does yeast overgrowth play any role in inducing this feeling of anxiety? Does it?
Thank you for throwing that new thought toward me. Since I first, of course, started with the philosophical and emotional and mental, and you're absolutely right. What feeds into it is our microbiome, our health of our fluids, our biochemistry. So if our biochemistry is off, then our thought processes will be off too. So the connection, brain and gut connection, a lot of societies in all kinds of medicine, whether it's gastroenterology or neurology, anti-aging, we're all talking about this connection. If you're biochemically off, then you have more risk at being stressed. You cannot cope with stress well, you have more anxiety, you're depressed, and you're addicted, etc., etc. So it is very important to keep your microbiome, which is the health of your gut and the health of the fluid in which your intestines are sitting in. So the fluid is not just water, it's not just blood. There's the interstitial fluid is running between all of the organs, and often inflammation doesn't sit in an organ, but in the interstitial fluid. So the fluids are very essential to keep as healthy as possible and keep at a balanced acidity, alkalinity level to not create too much of a fungal issue or other issues that would invite an overgrowth of bacteria, of virus, of parasites, etc. in your body. So we need to eat right. It's very essential, you know. Even 20 years ago, I heard from Burton Goldberg, who was the author of the cancer, what was it called? He wrote a lot of different books on cancer, and he was the author of Alternative Medicine magazine, the first alternative medicine magazine in worldwide. Burton was a dear friend of mine, and he said, you know, I realized I got into this field of becoming a publisher of cancer books, of helping yourself naturally, and becoming this publisher of this magazine, because my friend's daughter in her teenage ages, she committed suicide. And I realized the only reason she did that because she was biochemically off. None of the psychiatrists could have helped her, but someone who could have changed her idea and perspective of how to feed her body properly. Because once you start not eating or over binging, you know, you're eating too much sugary products or products that will break down into faster into sugar, so simple carbs, then of course it will bring more thought on depression or more negative thoughts. And so eating right, drinking right, touching your barefoot with the earth, being in the sunlight, and having nature around you is very essential. I'm going to throw the ball back to you. Where do you want me to go now?
Thank you again for your answers. Before I move away from the issue of yeast, I also want you to touch upon mold, you know, and mycotoxin, because these days there's a lot of talk around mold and mycotoxin and the role that they play in our health, even our emotional health, mental health. So what would you say regarding mold? And then the next question I would ask after that is, just give us in bullet point form, 1, 2, 3, 4. If a person has yeast infection or yeast overgrowth or mold or mycotoxin in their body, 1, 2, 3, 4 things that they need to do in order to overcome that. All right. Over to you now.
I'll do my best. Thanks for that.
Right.
Putting me on the spot, as always. You're very good at that. So mold exposure, of course, is something different. It's an environmental. So you're in the basement, let's say, or you're in a not well insulated apartment or house, and you see the mold growing through the walls. You see it's wet, it's humid, and you see the discoloration. This is a living thing. You may not think so, but it is. And it gives off gases. You know, there's atoms of little particles that it give off that you breathe in. So that can cause it's like a neurotoxin. It can cause you to not absorb again. Not only it will hinder your oxygenation. You know, oxygen is necessary to feed the blood properly and to feed all the organs. So your oxygenation intake will reduce, and you will have less energy, you'll be tired, and your gut will not work as well. And then, of course, it will affect also your brain health and your mental state, your emotional state. So it's never good to be exposed to mold. If that happens, it's a serious thing in the United States. Now they realize, not in health so much, but the insurance companies, when you have mold on your walls, they will try to not cover it because they know you will have to take off the whole wall in redoing the house, the apartment. So homeowners insurances, which we have in the United States and other places around the globe, they realize the expense and the impact it can have, the hazard it has on health. So a lot of physicians don't realize that this is something to look out for. Even your fertility will be challenged if you are exposed to mold. It's a
Right.
toxin. It's a toxin. So that's important to fix that, to no longer, not just to put paint over it. You have to take down that wall. You have to find the leak and you have to fix it completely. Or you move into an area that doesn't have the mold exposure. That would be ideal. That is different from the internal. Although it becomes internal, it's an external influence that you can easily change by moving to a non-mold exposed environment. But you need to look for it, you need to be aware of it. If you don't know, you don't know. So now you know. Now you listeners, you've heard it, look out for those spots, look at the ceilings, look at the walls. And then also the internal, the fungal overexposure, I want to throw in, so the 1, 2, 3 points, we've already talked about the fungal exposure. It is important to reduce the amount of sugar or low carbs that break down into glucose very quickly. And that is not ideal. So we need to break an addiction. So you need to, ideally, you increase your water intake, you press some lemon into fresh lemons, not lime. Lemon, which is acidic, but it turns alkaline when you digest it. You can get the peel graded into the water because as all the vitamins are sitting, it helps you become more alkaline and detox you. So water, then we do, of course, we do less low carb food. That means no bread, less rice, and bread, we have gluten in the bread. There's another contributor to, making cells sticky, let's say, and increasing the risk of keeping toxins and waste products, and increasing the risk for mental health disorder. Even just fixing that nutritional aspect can do a lot for you. So what is the nutritional aspect? Is once again, you need to intake more good, wholesome water, 2 to 3 liters a day, ideally with lemon. We need to stay away from low carbs. So if possible, no or less white rice, no bread, less low carb foods, like not packaged foods like cookies and crackers. Those are all low carb foods. And there's pizza. So if you want to say in my culture, we would say white flour. We will say the white flour items, wheat, but that does not apply here because you consider wheat something else. That's what I'm trying to find different words. Mm-hmm. So wheat here is something very different. So I would stay away from, of course, any sugary. And there's sugar and then there's fructose. So I want to stay away from sugars that come from refined sugary products such as refined sugar. You can still do your sugar cane. That's a very good form of sugar intake. It's very different from refined sugars. Your sweet drinks, your sodas, anything again with the cookies and with cereals, and you have to read the contents. When you do fruits, that's a natural sugar, and we call it fructose. And it takes longer to break down, and that's a healthier, of course. Even carrots are high in fructose, high in sugars, but it's a very different phenomenon to the other sugars that I mentioned. Then I'd like you to, of course, also important is to detox, meaning you start working out, moving your bodies, getting lactic acid out of your muscles. It will contribute to mental clarity and better mental health and less fear-induced anxiety and helping your gut to be healthier. And for that, I recommend on-demand treatment. Pulsed electromagnetic fields help with the detox, help with the the balancing of the nervous systems, so that your body will process thoughts and foods and anything regulation in the body better, and that is very essential. So I think you were told, I saw a sign. I'm gonna stop here. There might be more. Or did I misread that sign? Then you can bounce it back to me.
All right, thank you. We're going to go on a short break right now. When we come back, I'll be highlighting some of the things that you have suggested regarding yeast cleanse, as well as mold detox and dealing with mold in the house. Don't go away. We'll be back very shortly. I believe you've been having a terrific time with me on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. We have great resources that will bless your life available to you on healthy living and many other life subjects. We have various platforms where you can obtain materials for your blessing. You can obtain some of our work, our books, particularly on Amazon.com. How to Regain and Retain Your Health is a book title that I highly recommend. It's available in digital format, Kindle edition, as well as in printed version. We also have juices and smoothies for healing, health, and pleasure. You can also find these items at another website, familabooks.com, Famila books.com. And for those of you who are in Nigeria, you can reach us at the Shepherd Store, 18 Shogunle Street, off Mobolaji Bank Anthony Way, behind SFS Place, to get our materials. We have over 600 recorded audio CDs, DVDs, VCDs, and MP3 on various subjects. All these things that I teach on Exposé are already available in their complete format. How to reverse hypertension naturally, how to reverse diabetes naturally, how to reverse arthritis naturally, and many other wonderful titles. I encourage you to visit this website, Amazon.com, familabooks.com, or TSF bookstores in Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria, and you will be blessed reading those materials and sharing them with your friends and family. Thank you once again. God bless you. Welcome back. This is Exposé, and I'm your regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Again, we are blessed to have our special guest for today, and that is Dr. Silvia Binder. We're talking about anxiety, depression, and before we went on that short break, she highlighted the role that yeast overgrowth and mold can play in anxiety, depression, and general health as a whole. And dealing with mold, she particularly mentioned the idea of identifying mold in the building. If you find any part of your building where it is wet and damp, and there are patches of different colors, dark colors, and things like that, whether leakages by the side of the wall, on the roof, on the ceiling, in the basement, in the bathroom, everywhere there is dampness, usually that is the breeding ground for mold. And you see that the paint in that particular segment of the house begins to change color. If you notice such things around in your house, you may be living in a moldy house, which some people describe as the sick building syndrome. Okay, and you need to deal with that. That is an environmental issue you have to deal with in order to be able to overcome. Because if you focus on yourself and you're just trying to cleanse yourself and deal with yourself, this mold around the house continue to let out pores, and the pores go into the air, which are toxins that you continue to inhale, and they continue to go into your system, and that continues to wreak havoc in the body. So dealing with mold is a very, very important aspect of helping the body to heal, particularly in addressing mental health and anxiety in particular. And then she suggested the idea of drinking a lot of water and having some lemon in that water, and avoiding sucrose, not fructose, if I got you right. Sucrose, that's right. Avoiding sugar, soft drinks, and white flour products, things that can easily convert to sugar when digested, so that we don't feed the yeast in our system. and then we create a balance in the microbiome, ensuring that we have a balance of friendly bacteria as opposed to the pathogenic ones, disease-causing ones. So would you like to say a word on probiotics there?
I was going to just ask, I wasn't done with the list, but we were ready for the break.
Oh, okay.
So now we say to stay away from the 3 whites, right? So one I did not mention, I mentioned the sugar and the flour, but one that you just handed me the baton and I'm running with it. And that is stay away from, if you can, from cow, from dairy. So that's cow milk and cow yogurt. But a difference here is the fermented yogurt. So they sell it in Nigerian markets. They also, we have it in Germany and other places around the world. We call it kefir, K-E-F-I-R. But here you call it a fermented yogurt or something. So that's one, if you can get that. That's very different from just milk. Milk is a problem because it inflames. Milk coming from cow, which is for the calves, which weigh probably 10 times as much as a human being, if not more, so 100 times maybe. So stay away from dairy as much as you can. It wasn't meant for humans, and it inflames the bowels, which then causes you to not have a healthy intestine, and that affects your emotional and mental state.
Right.
So, but if you can do, when the kefir, we take the very top of the cream of the cow milk and we let it ferment, so that the bacteria can grow, and so that, or you can buy probiotics in capsules, or ideally in liquid that you can keep in the refrigerator. And then it's easier, of course, to have it available to build your microbiome, to add good bacteria, Acidophilus, Bifidus, etc., to your gut environment, especially if you've been on antibiotics in the past. And most of us have been. And so it's ideal to supplement, not for the rest of your life, but in stages. You know, you do it for 3 months, you stop for a month, you do it again. So that's how I recommend building to a healthier gut levels, just my take on it. We need bacteria. Without bacteria, we could not even digest our foods. Everything has a purpose. And so we want to have the good bacteria that gets eliminated by taking antibiotics, the good, the bad, and the ugly, boom, boom, being shot with a shotgun approach. So adding a good bacteria is important. Another thing that is important is magnesium. I haven't talked about that. So magnesium is very essential. It's I want to say it's the most important mineral because it's a precursor to 230 plus enzymatic processes. So you take magnesium-rich foods, Google it, search it on the internet. One of them is, for example, is almonds. So if you have a headache, it probably doesn't come from your head. It comes from your gut, and it may be a lack of magnesium. Just taking 10 almonds may give you relief.
Right.
Or you take a magnesium supplementation, and as I said, supplement with food. Another big one to get out of, or to be a better mentally, emotionally strong individual is sunlight, exposure from, of course, morning or evening, especially in Africa where the sun is very strong. Or you do vitamin D3 supplementation. Most, and I'm sure you've heard this many times on this show with Rev Tony, most people have vitamin D insufficiency, meaning we would be ideally at, let's say, a range of around 150 IU. And so most of us are maybe those that do not supplement or expose themselves enough to the sun, maybe at 15 or 20. So that is way too low. I recommend D3 supplementation either once a month with an injection, muscular or through a liquid, like liquid, always better than the tablets. But whatever you can get your hands on, of course. So that's ideal to package all of this, because it will take time. If you do not use an on-limit, it'll be hard to detox and balance your nervous systems in a very quick time, and hold it while you're changing your nutrition, you're adding supplementation. So that is an important element, the physics element to the chemistry. Chemistry can work much, much faster when you marriage it up with physics. And it's biophysics. That's what the Autonomic technology is all about.
Again, thank you so much. If I heard you correctly, you highlighted the importance of vitamin D and particularly sunshine exposure. And then you also talked about magnesium as a very important mineral. As a matter of fact, I had a friend recently who was having inexplicable headaches. I didn't know why he was having the headache. His blood pressure was good, blood sugar was fine, every test he did was okay, and yet the headache was persistent. So I just suggested to him to get a magnesium supplement, maybe the magnesium oil spray, and just spray it, right here, probably here, and be absorbed through the skin, or just mix the magnesium powder, magnesium citrate, magnesium ororate, different kinds of magnesium salts into his smoothie. He began to do that, and he found out that he got relieved, almost instantly. It was amazing to him that magnesium could help to relieve some kind of headache. Then you also talked about fermented food, and particularly kefir. You mentioned kefir as a good source of probiotics, but to be careful with yogurt made from cow's milk, because cow's milk will cause inflammation in the system and so on and so forth. Yeah, so fermented food generally. But unfortunately, in Africa, let me say West Africa in particular, in Nigeria, I know that we have all kinds of fermented food available here. We have the one we call the ogi or pap or akamu. It's a kind of fermented cornmeal, We have things like fermented locust beans. We call it iru. Then we have fermented melons. We call it ogiri. Then we have all kinds of fermented cassava products. Gari. We have fufu. We have lafun, and all kinds of different things made from fermented, roots like cassava in particular. But the unfortunate part of it is that we still go ahead to cook these fermented foods before we consume them, so thereby destroying all the friendly bacteria in them before we ingest them. So we do the fermentation, which kind of helps to break down maybe some toxic substances from the food, okay, and then also improves digestibility, and sometimes also helps for preservation. But then we now damage the whole process by going ahead to cook them. Sometimes in hot water, sometimes we place them on fire and heat them for 100 degrees Celsius for 10-15 minutes, by which time all the active ingredient, all the friendly bacteria, all of them are dead. They do not benefit our bodies anymore. That's why I often suggest to people to take the water on top of our fermented corn, which in my language, in Western Nigeria, the Yoruba language, we call it omidun. That's the water on top of the fermented corn. I just take a scoop, a cup full of that, and just drink it straight away. And that gives a lot of friendly bacteria. But kefir, sauerkraut, various other fermented products, fermented cucumber, what do you call that now? When they ferment cucumber and put it inside the bottles, what do they call that? I think it has a particular name. Sorry?
Pickles.
Sorry. Pickles, right. That was the name I was looking for. Pickles. It's not
and
our...
sauerkraut is very easy.
Yeah, sauerkraut is cabbage that is fermented. Cabbage, that's right. So if we inculcate all of these things into our diet, I believe they go a long way in feeding us with friendly bacteria that can help our gut health. And then there's the gut-brain connection that can impact on our emotional health, our mental health at the end of the day. Now, I'm going to touch on something else that serves as the bridge. I was actually reading a particular book recently which was talking about the bridge between the brain and the gut, which is the vagus nerve. I'm sure you have a lot to say along those lines. The role that the vagus nerve plays in anxiety and in our mental health.
Well, the vagus nerve is one of the most important nerves involved with everything going on in our biology. I don't have much to say about it. I'm so sorry. Maybe you have more to say about it. I never really honed in on the vagus nerve because while it's very essential and physicians have written about it, I think that a more important nervous system is the parasympathetic sympathetic. Is more important.
Come to this, yeah, we will still come to that.
Because the vagus nerve cannot operate properly without balancing those two.
Right.
So I like talking about the root, how to change root causes. Mm-hmm. And then the vagus nerve for me is not as essential as for some authors of books. So sorry, but please enlighten me. Tell me more. Tell me more about the vagus and all the listeners.
Right. Well, there's you said you about summarized the whole thing. You know that you see the vagus nerve connects the brain with the gut, and it communicates back and forth, takes information from the gut to the brain, from the brain back to the gut. So if anything happens to the gut, one end of the communication channel is impaired, and definitely that will send either wrong signals to the brain, and the brain begins to respond to things that are that are imagined rather than real, you know, at the end of the day, and makes the person to begin to react in some different ways. But the one I was going to touch upon really is what you mentioned in the course of your answering this question, and that is the autonomous nervous system. You know, for the purpose of our viewers, I would say that the nervous system has the central nervous system, and then we have the peripheral nervous system. And then there is one that many people don't talk about, which is the autonomous nervous system, the ones that kind of operate automatically. And it has two components. We have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. I want you to highlight those two aspects of the autonomic nervous system and the role that they play in creating balance, homeostasis, in terms of our neurology, to help us stay in a state of calmness rather than anxiety and worry and all of those.
But it's known for the fight and flight response.
Right.
So that is the balance is so important, so you don't go into a stress unnecessarily, while the other so we have those two systems. Parasympathetic is the calmness, the sympathetic nervous system is the active, and so how we respond to environmental triggers.
Okay.
This is what these two nervous systems are helping us in the background. We're not aware of it, right? So the autonomic nervous system is, as you said rightly, is the one we cannot control. It's not like the central nervous system. It is the nervous system that is used for intrinsic evaluation. That means if there is a criminal and a police officer, the police officer may, if they have it available, put you on a lie detector.
Okay.
To see if you are sweating to a question, if your pupils will dilate differently. There's other measures that a graph will show you where you're going off and where you're probably going off the truth from what you're saying. So, but that's very difficult, right? If we were able to just be more transparent,
right,
with ourselves, often we don't do it on purpose. We just don't know. And mindfulness, however, and meditation will help us to balance those two, fight and flight So either you are going into a withdrawal or you're going into a running. Like the tiger comes, you go into a sympathetic response. Parasympathetic is you would hide, you would get stiff, you would be frozen. Yes, do you agree? Is that enough of an explanation?
Very good enough. So, in summary, what you're saying is that when a person is in the sympathetic mode, the person is in a kind of autopilot. The person is in overdrive, as it were. And when the parasympathetic comes in, is the one that calms down and relaxes. That's for digestion and for relaxation, I believe. The parasympathetic aspect of the autonomic nervous system. But the aspect I want us to go on right now again is on, do you have suggestions regarding supplements that can help, maybe nutritional supplements, maybe herbal supplements that can help? I heard about the amino acid GABA, for example, and L-theanine, and some herbs like valerian root, and the rest of them. Of course, magnesium as a mineral also comes to play. But I want you to highlight a few supplements that could be very helpful in calming, in helping people to deal with anxiety disorders.
Yeah, so the L-theanine is a wonderful Ayurvedic one to help calm.
What did you call it?
The L-theanine, what is it called? I don't know what it's called, but I know L-theanine. But what is it called? It's an extract. Oh, you just said it. L-theanine. The L dash.
Okay. All right. Oh, sorry.
Those are extracts.
Okay.
I think rather than supplementation, I mean there are besides magnesium, the nutrition overall. I don't want to highlight supplementation so much.
Okay.
Because I would rather people eat better and get the supplementation from the foods.
Okay.
So detoxification, you have it right here in roots, the curcuma longa combined with maybe a touch of black pepper to detox, so that your regulation can work better and relaxation can work better. If you're too toxic, no matter what you take, is not going to hold. Yes? Then I said movement is important. So I want to take this into a different direction. The movement is important, so that with movement we can improve the micro and macro circulation. Again, supporting cardiovascular health, metabolic health, endocrine health. So it's natural, and knowing that you should move more and be in nature, I think has more validity than just popping yet another pill, whether it's a nutraceutical or whatever. Then let me think. I have not thought about this much. A wonderful supplementation that is available in West Africa is red palm oil. So if you take 1 tablespoon, right?
Yeah.
1 tablespoon for women, 2 tablespoons for men, any time of the day. It is amazing. Has an abundance of minerals and vitamin E and vitamin A, and it's just beautiful. I love supplementing with foods, so I'm so sorry for taking on a different road, but I know that you stand for that as well. But typically, when you speak with physicians, they will have a list of select nutritional supplementation, which I don't have, because I rather write down for my patients 1 tablespoon of quality high red palm oil, or do for mental health. Important is your dental health.
Right.
So the oil pulling. 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. Before you brush your teeth in the morning, swoosh it for a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes, then spit it out, rinse, then brush your teeth. Because buildup of, and you may not know it, but bacterial virus, the first entry point is the sinuses. The second one is your mouth.
Mm.
So there's always an abundance of virus bacteria in those areas. And then also if you can do like to have a wonderful eucalyptus spray
Okay.
that is mixed with menthol and you can put it in your sinuses.
Right.
Wonderful. Or you use your aboniki balm, even if it's hot. And you rub it on your chest, you inhale the fumes. Wonderful. So I
Right.
love those remedies, there are, I want to say also in the Western world, a lot of people are supplementing with bioidentical hormones to help with the overall health. And I'm sure, have you read books on that too?
Right. Yes. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, the problem I intuitively found many 15 years ago, I've looked at Suzanne Summers, I've looked at other people at the Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine where I used to teach. These people looked strange to me. And I said, they're doing too much. And it
Right.
changes the milieu. And they're
Right.
breeding more fungal infections. And it
Mm.
was confirmed. My intuitive brain already told me that, and it was confirmed. So you want to stay away from unnatural overdoing, even if it's saying natural, because ultimately everything is natural when it comes from this planet, even if it's synthesized, right? So
Right.
so there is it's a bunch of um, I don't know the word now, but a bunch of things that may not be as they are. There's a name for that, and I can't think of that right now. Uh, and we need to go beyond it and challenge ourselves, our intellect, and possibly throw another perspective on it.
Thank you so very much, particularly for bringing up, two very important, even though unnecessarily controversial items. That one is the red palm oil, which is a very good one, but it's been vilified over the years by those who feel threatened, as it were, by the incursion of red palm oil into the landscape of health. I've read a number of books, and I've met with several uh, allopathic physicians who, when it comes to red palm oil, they're a little bit hysteric. They feel, wow, it's going to increase your cholesterol, it's going to cause cardiovascular problem. And I keep saying, wait a minute. That's one of the best things God has blessed us with in the tropics, particularly in West Africa, where we have a lot of palm trees and we have palm oil, palm kernel oil, we have coconuts and coconut oil. All these things are abundant here. It's the gold mine in West Africa, yet to be tapped, I believe, yet to be tapped. There's so much that can be done with palm oil, with coconut oil, and the rest of that. But because it's been given a bad name, a bad rap, many people are running away from it, and they are running for the white oils that have been bleached and trans-esterified and processed, and they keep claiming zero cholesterol and blah, 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 blah. But again, from real hard science, we now know that red palm oil is very medicinal, rich in vitamin E, rich in vitamin A. And vitamin E, by the way, has about 8 different components in it, and all of them are virtually complete in red palm oil. Unlike when you buy vitamin E supplements and when you're getting 1 out of 8, you know. So that's the best source of vitamin E. And the best source of vitamin A, the only thing is that you don't bleach it. Because when you bleach it and the color changes from red to something else, you've lost most of the benefits in there. So we know the best way to consume our red palm oil. You just suggested 1 tablespoonful for women and 2 tablespoonful for men. Was that what you suggested? All
Yes,
right.
that's correct.
All right, good. So red palm oil brought that. Then oil pulling was another thing you brought on board. Many people are not familiar with oil pulling. You just explained it anyway. 1 tablespoonful of coconut oil into the mouth, and then you swish it around like that for 10 minutes. Upon that, you do that before you brush your teeth in the morning, isn't it? Right.
That's correct.
It helps to pull out all kinds of toxins. It helps your dental health. And when our mouth is clean and good, definitely that's going to help various other parts of the body. I also read in a book where it actually says oral health has implications for every other system in the body. that many people get even heart infections like carditis or endocarditis or pericarditis as a result of infections in the mouth that seeped all the way down into the heart and caused infections in the heart. And it can also seep into various other parts of the body. So keeping our mouth really healthy and clean is a fundamental health issue for each and every one of us. Then in one of the books I read, somebody also mentioned lavender oil as a very good one in helping to bring relaxation, particularly when it is used in massage therapy and what have you. Maybe we should wrap up with that. What are your thoughts on massage therapy in relation to anxiety?
Yeah, wonderful. And massage is very important to manipulate the body in a gentle way from the outside in. What Autonomic does in creating movement and attracting immune cells, etc., from the inside out, massage does it from the outside in helping to relax muscles and that, you know, when muscles are relaxed, you may have a disc in misalignment because the muscles are so tight. But once you get to the muscles, you know, root cause again, the disc may fall into place. So massage is very essential, and etheric oils, essential oils are wonderful. There's sandalwood, there's a lavender, there's orange. I mean, there's many different ones. They all have their brilliance, and smell, of course, is just like the ebony bar, as I said. That's a mental smell, and peppermint, and, you know, eucalyptus, very refreshing. So that is always a plus. I wanted to talk about a myth buster, and now I cannot find the cholesterol, of course, you know. Don't let people fool you into, and a lot of physicians, cardiologists already know, it's not the cholesterol that will cause the heart attack. You know, the cholesterol actually protects your heart from having the heart attack. And then I wanna so go with the red palmer, go with the coconut oil, and just know that what our ancestors did was not so wrong after all. And then I want to say that besides keeping the body fluid and with massage and manipulation, maybe gentle spinal adjustments, and a good massage therapist can do that, you know, gently pushing on your spine and joints. But the entrance or the beginning of your gut is not the stomach, but your mouth. This is why your digestion starts in the mouth.
Wow. Yeah.
And you want to keep it as a balance with the alkalinity and acidity, and as low in overload of inflammation and infection caused by bacteria and virus, by doing the oil pulling, by making sure you see your dentist at least once a year to make sure that everything is good. Do not have root canals. That is a big no-no, because you have a dead tooth sitting and no nerve that supports it nutritionally, meaning that tooth is going to be sitting in dead tissue, can only cause a problem in the future. Prostate cancer is linked to root canals, breast cancer linked to root canals. So I want to caution those dentists that are looking at root canals as a great business opportunity to help people not losing their teeth. Let them lose their teeth and not lose their lives prematurely. West African dentists have not progressed into that area much. Hallelujah. It's a good thing. So I've said a lot of different things. I'll throw back to you. Back to the studio.
Thank you. Today we cannot thank you enough. You have brought up so many controversial issues, but I am glad that people are getting enlightened and getting informed. The issue of root canals, I mean, in West Africa is still big business. Even though I have known Dr. Hal Hoggins, a doctor of dental surgery, is late now. He wrote a book on, I think the title of the book is Uninformed Consent. I actually recommend that book to many people. It's available on Amazon.com. Uninformed Consent by Dr. Hal Huggins. He talked very, very powerfully. He spoke on, he bared his mind on root canals in particular as a major problem in the mouth that can lead to prostate cancer, breast cancer, and various other neurological disorders as well, because all kinds of infections take root in that dead tissue sitting in the mouth, because there's no blood supply, there's no nerve connection to that particular tooth. Everything has been disconnected, as it were, so it's a dead tissue sitting in the mouth, and that could be a breeding ground for particularly anaerobic agents, infectious agents, that can breed a lot of toxins in the mouth. Even mercury-free dentistry is something that is strange to many people in this part of the world. I was searching just yesterday on the net for biological dentists in Nigeria, and I couldn't find one. I don't know if they are in existence, but I searched and searched and still I couldn't find one. Everybody, as far as I know, uses mercury a lot. But I was glad to stumble upon a particular article yesterday as I was searching that was published in Nigeria, where a conference that was done, I think, in South Africa, and some Nigerian professionals participated in that conference in South Africa, and there they were discussing the subject of mercury-free dentistry. And I said, hallelujah, now we're getting there. People are beginning to realize that mercury is very toxic and it shouldn't be sitting in somebody's mouth. Okay, just like the issue of root canal dentistry is also another aspect. Fluoride is another very controversial one that is used extensively in dentistry, but in this part of the world, not too many people are aware of the risks involved in using such substances. Yeah, today you have brought so many things to the table. As we tie it up, let me just highlight to our viewers again that you've spoken about vitamin D3 and sunshine exposure. You've spoken about magnesium. You've spoken about fermented food, particularly kefir. You've spoken about the undermed and the role that it plays in both depression and anxiety. You've talked about yeast cleanse, particularly candida, as well as mold. And then you've spoken about the vagus nerve and the connection between the vagus nerve and the gut and the brain. Then you mentioned stress as well as a contributor to anxiety and nervousness. And then, of course, you highlighted dental health, oral health, as being very, very important in keeping the whole of our body fit. Then, of course, red palm oil and oil pulling, then lavender oil and massage therapy, and things like L-theanine and maybe GABA and the rest of them. But you're not big on supplements. You are big on food. You want people to get their minerals and their vitamins and their nutrients from their food. And thankfully, magnesium is abundant in green vegetables. In fact, it's magnesium that makes chlorophyll green. Okay, so when somebody takes a lot of green vegetables, particularly in their raw state, they are getting a lot of magnesium as well. Almond is another very rich source of magnesium, and you highlighted that already. So it's high time we started looking at food sources for getting all of these things into our system so that we can be the best for it. Once again, Dr. Silvia Binder, we want to say a big thank you. You are of the Binder Institute for Personalized Medicine. Can you give us, again, your contact in case people want to reach out to you, first for therapy to be treated by you as a naturopath and an undermed practitioner, and second, in case somebody is interested in acquiring the undermed device, either for personal use or for clinical application, we need you to give us your details, your email, and maybe your WhatsApp number if you care to release that, so that people can contact you or maybe go to your website where they can find the information that they need. All right.
Thank you so much. I'll be happy to attend to any questions highlighting health, wellness, well-being, and the undermed being an integral part of it. So I have a bunch of websites, not too many, but one is, and we're now actually, I have a wonderful new colleague who is helping me with social media, which I am staying away from since I like the dopamine fasting. We haven't touched on that one. But that is to stay away from social media And I have not watched the news in 20 years, no newspapers, there's another dopamine fasting. I create my own reality and feed into the world the best I can and take it in, of course. So you can reach me and my team, my colleagues at, I give you the website, the email support@onthemed.net. SUPPORT @onthemed, ONDAMED for network. Also, onthemed.net is the website where you can see a lot of information. Also, the Binder Institute for Personalized Health is it says, I hope it's not too complicated, but Binder, BINDER, -institute with an E at the end, .de for Deutschland. DE. D
Right.
for dog, E for Edward.
Okay.
And then I don't have the phone number on me readily, my WhatsApp number, but when people send me a message to support, that's the best because they all land with me. Support@onthemed.net. And I want to leave you with the message of the let's call it, he was Hippocrates, the founder of the new medicine, so to speak, the founder of the new allopathic medicine, and he said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food." And I want to add to it, as one of my brilliant advisors said, "Let on the med be thy medicine and medicine thy on the med."
That's free advert there. Once again, we want to say a very big thank you for taking your time to be with us today and answering all these questions very extensively, bearing your mind and your thoughts so that we can be well informed and educated on some of these very critical, sensitive issues relating to our health. Once again, viewers, thank you very much for being with us on Exposé today, where we reveal, unveil, and uncover nutritional and health issues, wellness issues, to get you informed. For what we need is not more medication, but more education. And the best prescription is knowledge. Thank you for your time and God bless you.
I believe you've been having a terrific time with me on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. We have great resources that will bless your life available to you on healthy living and many other life subjects. We have various platforms where you can obtain materials for your blessing. You can obtain some of our work, our books, particularly on Amazon.com. How to Regain and Retain Your Health is a book title that I highly recommend. It's available in digital format, Kindle edition, as well as in printed version. We also have juices and smoothies for healing, health, and pleasure. You can also find these items at another website, familabooks.com, Famila books.com. And for those of you who are in Nigeria, you can reach us at the Shepherd Store, 18 Shogunle Street, off Mobolaji Bank Anthony Way, behind HFS Place, to get our materials. We have over 600 recorded audio CDs, DVDs, VCDs, and MP3 on various subjects. All these things that I teach on Exposé are already available in their complete format. How to reverse hypertension naturally, how to reverse diabetes naturally, how to reverse arthritis naturally, and many other wonderful titles. I encourage you to visit this website, Amazon.com, familabooks.com, or TSF bookstores in Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria, and you will be blessed reading those materials and sharing them with your friends and family. Thank you once again. God bless you.